Welcome to AI for You. Today's prompt is about making the most out of in person events, specifically conferences, but you could adapt this for other events as well. I go to a lot of events, and it can be overwhelming going through schedules, speakers, and sessions, trying to figure out what your ideal itinerary is. Add to that the opportunities for networking and connecting at these events. So it's important to have a strategy for that and to be prepared with good questions instead of just saying, "Hi, I really liked your session." This prompt will help you select the most relevant sessions for your role and goals, the speakers you should connect with, and what questions you might ask them, and the additional opportunities you should take advantage of. I've actually created a custom GPT out of this prompt, and I like to pair it with my solo travel itinerary planner GPT to make the most out of any event. The full prompt is in the show notes. In today's episode, we explore how AI is transforming the enrollment management landscape with Allison Turcio. Allison is the Assistant Vice President for Enrollment and Marketing at Siena College. She is also a marketing professor, a consultant, the host of the Application Podcast, and a publisher of the Higher Education Marketers Digest. Let's jump right into the conversation. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show today, Allison. It's great to have you.
I'm so excited to be on your show, Brian.
So, you are an admissions rock star. Love your podcast, The Application. And recently you did a series on various ways to leverage AI for yield season. Can you share some of those use cases?
Oh my gosh, I had so many, it's almost hard to remember, but some of the ones that come to mind are ways you wouldn't necessarily think of using AI. So, for instance, I have a way that you can be using generative AI to actually help you scale note card writing. Because what happens when you pull out a note card? You take the pen, you put the pen to paper, and you're like, what am I going to say to this student? Right. But you can actually help it develop those templates for you. So then you're just copying using your handwriting and pasting. I mean, it really can be used for anything that you think you can be more efficient at. So, whatever your pain point is, it can help with that. Another way I really like to use it is write an email that you want to send to, let's say it's accepted students. We're talking in spring, so let's talk about admitted students. You're writing an email to them. So you write it because I feel very strongly about not using AI to be the origination of the content. So you're going to write this email to your accepted student audience. Where generative AI can help you with is getting it more segmented. So you can put it in and get multiple iterations really quickly. So I want to tailor this now for a student interested in biology, or I want to tailor this now for a student I know lives close to campus. I want to tailor this now for a student I know is a legacy student. Their parent came to my school, right? So you can quickly just get those tweaks in to make it feel really personal and more relevant to the student.
Yeah, absolutely. And you hit the nail right on the head. You start with the original content with your human generated content, and then you use AI to help you like repurpose, retarget, and redistribute that because there are so many different ways, and even being able to automate some of that process and come up with the different categories of students. You can give it a whole list of different students and their interests, and it can categorize them and break them down and say, these 20 students should get this variation of the email. So I love that.
Yeah, I think you really have to think of it as a helper, not a replacer.
Right.
And
Yeah.
that was the point of the series, and please go and listen to it. It's a four-part series, and that's really what I try to strike the balance in, how to leverage it, but not have it be replacement for human connection. Actually, how can you be using it in ways that enhance
Yeah.
communication and connection between you and your students?
For sure. Yeah, that collaboration back and forth with the technology, I think
Mhm.
is one of the key ways to really help augment your own expertise, and you're the one that in the end has to like go through and validate and verify and make sure that everything's right, strategic and creative. But the tool can just help so much with that process.
Yeah, it can't do the critical thinking piece.
For
And
sure.
it can never know your audience like you know your audience. I have a use case that we've been working on where we have done this kind of thing before, but it's hard to scale. Sending a quote from the student's essay to them, personalizing it on a print piece, going through. So we've done this, we've done it manually, but I was able to create a custom GPT where I was extracting the right quote, the right sentence for each student. But this requires human intervention and checking, because sometimes it would pull something that's not appropriate to put on a postcard. It might even be something that the student went through a difficult time, and that's not what you're trying to do. You're trying to pull out what they learned from that difficult time, the inspirational piece, the moving forward piece. And so it doesn't always get that right. Also, it likes to sometimes add a little flair to the student quote, and you have to refine the prompting that you're doing to make sure it's not doing that. But you have to check it. It's not something that's foolproof in a way that I can just put that in and copy down 250 quotes that it's pulled and put in. Now, has it helped me be able to do that faster? Yes, and get to more students and make them feel more connected, and when they get something like that in the mail, it makes them feel really special, right? That the time was taken to do it. So it's helping us do it to more students, but it can't do it alone. It requires us.
Yep, absolutely. And we it always comes back to that on this show, is talking about how you can leverage AI to make yourself more human, to create more human, more personal connections. And I think that's a true power of it. But like you said, it definitely needs oversight. So
Yes.
I thought the series was a brilliant look at different ways to start thinking about integrating AI into the yield season. What about other seasons? Because we know there are lots of different things going on in admissions all the time with, melt and launches and moving in. And what are some of the other ways that you're using AI?
A lot of the use cases, honestly, that I shared for how to connect with admitted students could be used for any other types of students, right? But I think where we have a stumbling block when it's a student before they've applied or before they've been admitted is we don't know as much about them. So how can we make something feel at that personal level when we know less? So one of the things I think AI can help us with is generating questions that we can be asking students, and sort of this like progressive profiling mindset to help learn about them so that we can get to that point where we have this robust information, and then we're giving them that really tailored communication. So that's one way that I think we can be thinking in large scale, top of the funnel. How do we strengthen what we know? Because when we purchase a search name, for instance, all we know is their name, their email, and perhaps their address, right? We don't know a lot about them. But honestly, even my idea about how to talk to a student who lives closer to campus versus farther away, you can at least start there, right? So I think the use cases that I talk about can be applied to different types of students. And the next topic, and I have not yet gotten to the point of deciding what use cases to share. My next idea is to do it for summer melt. How can we be leveraging AI for summer melt? And on that, it's the communications, those kinds of examples, but also the data. You can help it analyze the data to understand which students are most at risk of deciding to go to another school or deciding not to go to college, right? So there's going to be a lot of different ways it can help us strengthen that relationship with students over the summer and make sure they show up on move-in day and for the first day of classes.
Yeah, that's great. And especially at that point where you have a lot of data on
Yes.
them, where you have a lot of that information that you can leverage. It's
Especially
fantastic.
if you've been tracking all of those interactions that a student has had. It's the depth and the amount of interaction that you've had with a student tells you a lot more than just, again, that demographic profile information. And AI will help you to discover, or I guess it can help you to discover where those points are. Where are those breaking points? Is it 20 interactions? They're 99% of them are going to show. Where are they on that line? And it'll help you focus on the right students.
Yep, for sure. For sure. So tell me a little bit about your AI journey. Where did you start getting into AI, and was it hesitant at first, or were you kind of all in?
Gosh, I actually think one of the first episodes that I ever hosted, I think it might have been the second episode, was about AI on the application podcast. And I think it was more than 2 years ago. So I feel like I was a pretty early adapter at this. I was just having a conversation with an admissions counselor who hasn't yet dove in at the level that I have. So to answer your question, I think I was full throttle. I dove right in, tried it for all different kinds of things. And that's how I've come to a place where I can share ideas that I actually think will work and that you can go on and do it. But anyway, I was talking to this admissions counselor and I told him, well, don't even start with work. You have a trip coming up, like start there. Like you're going to be 3 days in New York City and you like this kind of food and you definitely want to do these activities. Tell it that information. It's going to give you a really cool itinerary and that's going to free you up for other things that you want to do. For him, he coaches a lot of his kids' sports. So, it's an additive thing to have to plan the vacation. Well, where can we get the help? So I told him start with your personal life, but I think for everyone, you have to be on that personal journey of what works for you and that balance of the human versus the technology. Where are the places where it can help you, but keep your integrity intact? So I feel very strongly about it, again, it not being a replacement for our work, especially for creative work. So we need to find where that threshold is. Each of us needs to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a very personal choice, but
It
you
is.
know, I'm a huge proponent of using the tools for personal. I have a dozen different GPTs that I use all the time, including an itinerary planner. It's just such a great time saver.
It is. And it's simple things like, have you ever gone on Goblin AI? That's a new one that I just got introduced to. And I mean, it just, for instance, you tell it a task that you need to do or in a project you need to work on, and it'll break down the steps. Even that, just getting that help, that clarity, then you take those steps and you put it into your calendar. It can actually become really freeing. Some of the things that bog us down, some of those pain points, some of those things that we end up actually stressing the most about because they build up, it can actually help us with that. So it can help us be better humans because I know when I'm feeling less stressed, I'm a better mom, I'm a better colleague, I'm a better wife, I'm a better daughter, right? So there's ways it truly can help us be better versions of ourselves, but we have to find where that line is where it's too much and we're reliant too much on the technology, or the technology is replacing the feelings and the thoughts that we bring to our projects and our work that make the difference, that make it special. Because if we're all using AI and not doing that, we're not going to get out of the sea of sameness.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we both talked with a lot of different people in higher ed. Why do you think AI adoption is so difficult for so many people in higher ed? What do you think the key challenges are?
I think it's just like anything that's new. What are always those pain points? One is time. I have all of this and I can't see my way through having time to go try out these tools and see. I think there's always fear of something new. And also, there's real ethical issues and considerations when it comes to generative AI. There's the sustainability and the environmental impact, which I've heard on both sides because I've heard people say the energy that it's taking to run these models it has a real impact on our climate and the environment. On the other hand, I've had people tell me that this is actually going to help us solve some of our biggest environmental and climate change issues too, right? So there's all of this, and then the ethics on what it's doing to creative, right, and the protection of sort of art and artists' work. So we have to, these are things that we have to weigh. I think it's the same as anything. We're as humans, we're hesitant to change. Sometimes we're hesitant to try new things. I have yet to meet a person that once they saw it and tried it didn't have a light bulb moment of, wow, this could be really helpful and powerful for me in my work.
Absolutely. What advice do you have for people or institutions just getting started with the technology?
I think the best advice is to jump in and try it. You can't understand. It's like we're sitting here talking about it, Brian, and trying to describe it, but it really comes to life when you actually do it. And you pick Bard, pick Chat GPT, pick Microsoft's generative, whatever one you want to try, and just jump in and try it. There's so many just like sample prompts out there that you could do, but you just get a feel for what it can do for you. That's the first step. As an institution, I think you have to bring the right people together to talk about what is the right AI approach for your institution. And the answer is going to be different for all of us. but there should be sort of this governance, shared governance approach to a discussion about AI and its use. On college campuses, there's a lot of sensitivity around this because it's not just, I'm talking a lot about from my work as an enrollment professional and a marketing professional, but I also teach. And AI in the classroom opens up an entire different kind of conversation and the integrity around all of that, the academic integrity issues. On the other hand, this is a tool that's going to be available to all of these students in the workplace. It's already available to them. So we have to find the right way to teach them, because we would be doing them a disservice to not be talking about it, not be teaching it, because we're trying to prepare them for the future and the careers. We have to talk about it and do it. So, but how do we do that? That's a conversation to be having campus wide. What's the right approach to be using it in the classroom so that there's consistency. You don't have one professor talking about one thing and you have another professor saying, absolutely not. There's no way AI should ever be used anywhere, right? What is that balance and what's right for your community? So these are conversations we should be having because it's not going away.
And I think, establishing those guidelines and setting up that governance is such a critical first step, because once you have that in place, it provides people the approval to start using these tools and start experimenting and playing, because we don't really even know all the capabilities of these tools. I
No,
mean, even the engineers that are building the tools don't really know everything that they can
no.
do. And we're always coming up with new ways to use it, new use cases and new integrations. I think there's just a world of opportunities out there.
And so you need guidelines that are flexible because you can't know what it's going to become or
Right.
all the things that it can do. So maybe it's more thinking about it as guardrails. Where are our limits for how we're going to use it and what we think is an appropriate use of it, whether it be in the classroom or in the workplace. But in the meantime, if you're someone who's not sitting in that seat that can be moving and advancing these conversations on your campus, use it for your personal life. Like Brian was saying, he has one for travel planning. You can use it for shopping, for recipe. I mean, the use cases for your personal life are also fitness, putting together a fitness plan, a workout plan. I mean, there's so many use cases. So you can get familiar and come to your own conclusions for yourself and what those guardrails are for you in the meantime.
What are some of the most interesting use cases that you've seen or heard from at other institutions or at your own institution?
My use cases are really, really marketing focused. So I think the ones that help us get the most personalized are like that's my bias that I come with. I wrote my dissertation on audience centered higher education marketing, right? So for me it's anything, any ideas. And so if you're listening right now and you have one, I'd love to hear it. I shared a whole bunch in my series, but there's never ending ways where we can get something to feel more personalized. I think some of the like quick wins are some of my favorites. Like if you write a subject line, it can give you another 20 ideas and also analyze which one it thinks will have the best open rate or the best conversion rate once someone reads that email. Things like that are just quick wins that have impact in the day-to-day work. So those are the things that I like to look for. So I can't think of anything super unique or super special, but just I kind of like the everyday things that power up the work that you're already doing.
And you talked a little bit about some of the risks and some of the future thinking that we need to be doing as we're using these tools from, ethical and preparedness side of things. We know that these tools are going to impact our jobs and our workflows. What can higher ed professionals start doing now to get themselves ready for, what the future of their job is going to look like?
I don't think you have a choice but to start trying out and using it now, because if you're sitting on the sidelines thinking I'm not ever going to do that, I just don't see that coming to fruition. I think it's going to become baked into our jobs. It's going to be a skill that's expected for us to have in the workforce pretty much at all different levels in all different industries, doing all different kinds of work. So it's best to get on the boat now. Now, I know there's a lot of people listening perhaps that have those ethical considerations that they're considering, but that's something to dig into too. Let's educate ourselves on what the impacts are. What are those impacts versus other kinds of technology that we already rely on and we're doing, and what are the ways that some of the scientists and experts actually believe AI is going to help us solve some of those ethical considerations. So maybe you're not ready to jump in and try out the actual tools, but you certainly can read up on the challenges that are being considered throughout the different industries with when it comes to AI use, but also you can read up or listen to how other people are using it in the meantime, because one thing I know for sure is it's not going away.
Yeah.
It's here to stay. What we can't know for sure is what it will look like and feel like even a couple weeks from now, because that's sort of the whole point of it, is it changes itself as we all are using it. So, but the one, it's not going away. So this is probably not the moment to bury your head in the sand and say, I'm not going to try it and I'm not going to learn about it. So if you're not ready to try it, then learn about it.
Yeah, and we see that with so much new technology, like when the internet first came out, people were like, "Why would I want a website? Who needs a website?"
Yeah.
Who needs to be on social channels? And, these things have a way of expanding different capabilities and opportunities. So we need to be at least aware and cognizant of those.
Yeah.
And you mentioned the difficulty of trying to predict like where things are going. That leads right into my next question. Where do you think AI is gonna go in the next year or 2? I used to ask people 2 or 3 years, but that's way too
Oh
far out
gosh.
to
Yeah.
predict, right?
Because it's
Or
already has changed so much. Yeah.
yeah, it's incredible the advances that it's gone through just in the last 2 years since it really, kinda became super public and out there. But what are you
Yeah.
excited about? Yeah.
Well, I don't know if I'm excited about it, but when I think about the thing that comes to mind is what's happening with the video and the imagery and these amazing things that can be done, and you're not actually shooting the video with an actual camera. It's creating this. That is one of those lines for me that I feel that for me it feels uncomfortable. So it's one of those discussion points that we have to have, because what do we lose in terms of authenticity if we're doing that? And we use video to sort of prove things about our world or show things. What happens if the videos are not real? They're not based in any kind of reality. That's scary, but I think it's happening already. So that is only going to get more sophisticated and probably harder to detect what was made using AI and what was made, quote unquote, the old school way, right? Of doing things. So that is, I think it's the visual world of it all that I think is going to accelerate really, really fast.
Yeah, I mean, we know Runway's partnered up with Lionsgate Entertainment, so there's gonna be a lot more AI-generated video in the entertainment that we see, and oftentimes that leads, a lot of the expectations for the work that we're putting out there. And we've had lots of discussion about this at the university and talking about, if you need some B-roll, maybe there's a good use case for it there, or, there are tools like in Premiere and Adobe's Premiere, you can extend clips. So if you need like 3 more seconds at the end of a video, then, but anytime you're creating something entirely from, a text prompt, you gotta, figure out how transparent you wanna be with your
Yeah.
audience about that, so you're not deceiving them about that.
Well, like making a video that looks like your president is saying something they never
Yeah.
said. That's really disconcerting, that kind of idea. But it does also make me wonder if our comfort levels with all of this, we will naturally move. So I'm making this statement that I'm really uncomfortable with that right now. But in 2 years or something, is that just normal? And it has pushed me into a feeling of comfort. I don't know. Halda just released a couple weeks ago. I don't know if you saw this use of AI. So if someone comes to the website and they kind of fill out this, they it's not really an RFI form, but a form about themselves, and at the end they can ask for an AI phone call or an AI text, and you can talk to the AI on the other end, and it's really good at answering questions that you might have about an institution. And the same thing with the text message, it's pretty accurate as well. I mean, it can't do everything, but especially maybe for someone who doesn't like phone calls with actual real other human beings, or they feel like their questions aren't good questions, so they would rather not actually ask a real admissions counselor. I mean, there might be something here, but that might also become standard in our lives, that we're able to get our customer service done. Right now, it's hard to think about that because when you call, you almost always feel like you're just pressing 0 so I can get the real human that can help me. But it's becoming more sophisticated in a way that I think it actually will be able to answer those questions and solve the problems, maybe without human intervention. But where is our comfort level going to be? Any of that? How many of us are going to opt in to the AI option versus the real person option? I don't know. I think in surveys and things like that, people are likely to say they're going to choose the human if you ask them right now, but I suspect that user behavior might not reflect what the surveys say.
Yeah, absolutely. And you see so much use of AI within customer service now. And I mean, a lot of times the human customer service experience is not ideal either. Maybe it's a, like we said, it's a collaboration, it's a combination of the two. The AI answers all your, broad questions, and it really kind of collects all the information. And then when it gets to a certain point, it can pass you along
Yeah.
to a skilled, trained human customer
Yeah.
service rep who can, solve your particular issue.
And maybe that's a better interaction because all the triage sort of level stuff is out of the way. And maybe we actually have a better human connection, better human interaction when it's served up in that way. So maybe it gets used to enhance that human to human communication. It's possible.
For sure. Absolutely. One of the questions I always finish with is, what use case is helping you the most in your job?
Wow. There's so many ways that it helps me. I feel like I have to open up ChatGPT like right now and look at it and figure out my favorite way that it's helping. We mentioned, just for the sake, because it is so important, the iterations, taking a communication that I have written but having it create iterations of it for different audiences. That is something every day. And some of the audiences, so if I know a student is more career focused, I will ask it to take this information about and make it more career focused. If it's a student I know is really into service, a service focused student. So really thinking in terms of personas and making that happen. But another way that I would say I'm using it, I'm going to talk about my teaching side, right? So funny story on my rate my professors. I have like a really good rating, but the student comment said she uses AI to grade, which is partially true. I don't use it to actually grade the work, but I take all these like scratchy notes, when I'm reviewing a student's, like say they've submitted a case study. So I put that into GPT to help make my notes more clear to the student. But they perceive that. So now I've gone back to my scrappy notes anyway. But that was a use case. And I think as people get more comfortable with it, they'll feel good. Because actually I think they got better feedback that way because it
Right.
wasn't changing what I was trying to say to the student, but it did a better job of making it more clearly understood than my sort of chicken scratch that I'm doing in the indexes. So I'm hoping that opens up because I actually think it's beneficial to the student. Again, it's actually saving me time because I actually read everything that a student wrote because, again, comfort levels, ethics. I don't
Mhm.
feel comfortable not reading a student's case study that they have submitted me, but putting a grade on that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
organizing the notes and making them more clear, yeah,
Sure.
that's where it could be helpful. So that's a use case I want to be using it.
That's great. Well, Allison, I can't thank you enough for coming on the show and sharing your thoughts and insights. If our audience wants to connect with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
Oh gosh, find me on LinkedIn. You can also go to allisonturcio.com and sign up for my newsletter. I have a bi-weekly newsletter, and I just bring all the best content from higher ed together in one place. So it's not like a blog kind of newsletter. It's like, here's all the links of the awesome content that's being put out across our industry all in one place for you. So go ahead and sign up there.
It's a great newsletter and a great podcast, and so glad you were able to join us today.
Thanks, Brian.
It's always great talking with Allison. I particularly liked her emphasis on starting with human created content before using AI to adapt and personalize it for different audiences. This approach maintains authenticity while dramatically scaling our ability to make each student feel understood. Her recommendation to begin with personal applications of AI before bringing it into professional workflows offers a practical pathway for those hesitant to embrace AI. By finding that balance between human creativity and AI powered efficiency in our own lives first, we can more confidently integrate these tools into our institutional strategies. What stood out most to me is Allison's framework for institutional AI adoption. The idea of flexible guardrails rather than rigid guidelines acknowledges that AI capabilities are rapidly evolving, requiring governance that protects core values while allowing for innovation. As we navigate the next phase of AI integration in enrollment management, Allison reminds us that our unique understanding of our audiences remains our greatest advantage, one that AI can amplify but never replace. Please reach out to me with unique ways that you're integrating AI into your professional and personal lives. As always, blue skies and keep creating.